She lay on her side, legs pulled up, eyes fixed on a crack in the stone above her. Blood pooled beneath her thighs, thick and slow, soaked into the soot-stained floor. The chapel didn't have doors anymore, just empty frames where light dared not step in. She didn't scream. She didn't even blink. The candles hissed when the wind pushed through the collapsed rafters, like something was breathing over her shoulder. "Push," the midwife said flatly, kneeling in ash. "Now." The girl's stomach tensed. No sound. Only the soft, wet noise of a child arriving into the air that didn't want her. The baby came whole, already staring, not squalling, just alert. Her skin was the color of smoke. The umbilical cord pulsed once, then stopped. "She's here," the midwife whispered. "She's wrong." The girl didn't move. Her face was a pale hush. Her hair clung to her temples in blood-tangled strands. She reached forward slowly, fingertips first, as if she might get burned. "She's yours," the midwife said. "Take her." "She's not," the girl murmured. "She never was." Then came the boots, soft at first, then louder. Wet steps, measured. The midwife looked up. "No," she hissed. "Not now. Not with it still warm." The man ducked through the broken arch, a shadow bent by time. His coat was damp. His beard was streaked with mud. He didn't speak. He crossed the room and stood over them like a decision waiting to be made. The girl didn't look up. She pressed the baby to her chest and held her there like a secret. "You're late," she said. "I didn't know it was today," he answered. "You said she'd come silent." "She did. You said she wouldn't take anything with her." He looked down, slowly. The baby opened her fingers. Her left hand caught the candlelight, a glint of gold, too small to slide on, but there it was. A wedding ring, polished, perfect, old. He didn't speak. His face hollowed out in one breath. His hand dropped from his coat pocket. It trembled. "That's not possible," he said. The girl laughed once. "You said it'd stay hidden." "I buried it. I know where. No one could have found it." "She didn't find it. It found her." The midwife stepped back. She shook her head once, then twice. "I want no part of this." "You already had your part." The man muttered. "I catch babies. I don't bury ghosts." She walked out without gathering her tools. Her apron flapped behind her like a dying flag. The baby blinked once. Her breath was quiet, but sharp. She didn't cry. She didn't need to. The man reached down. The girl didn't resist. He lifted the baby from her arms and cradled her against his chest. She fit into him like a wound he'd reopened on purpose. "Where'd she get it?" he asked. "You said that land was dead. You said nothing could grow where you left him." "I salted the soil." "She grew anyway." His hand brushed the child's palm. The ring was warm, too warm. "You remember what she said to you?" the girl asked. "Which one?" "The one you left bleeding. The one with the long braid." He hesitated. "She said the ring would find a finger again." The girl sat up slowly, wincing, legs trembling. "She didn't mean yours. She meant his. She meant hers." "I don't believe in that." "You did when you begged me to take it." He stared down at the child. "I thought if it was gone, he'd stay gone." "You were wrong." Outside, something cracked, a branch or a bone. The wind stilled. "She's not yours," the girl whispered. "You don't get to name her." "I wasn't going to. She already has one anyway." "What is it?" "She hasn't told me yet." The man paced once, then stopped. The baby opened her eyes. They were clouded but focused, like she was looking through him. "I can't take her," he said. "You already did." "I'll leave her with you. She'll come to you anyway." He handed the child back. The moment she touched her mother's skin, the room changed. The candle nearest them flickered blue. The stone beneath them shifted like something breathing beneath it. "She remembers," the girl said softly. "Who?" "All of them." The man wiped his hands on his coat. The blood didn't come off. He stepped back, then stopped at the altar. It was crumbled, splintered, buried in vines. He pulled something from behind it, a wooden box, old and damp. "You said you burned that," she said. "I lied." He opened it. It was empty. "She already has it," the girl said. "She's always had it." "I don't want this," he whispered. "She's not asking." The baby twitched. Her mouth opened slightly. She made no sound. "What do we do now?" he asked. "We wait." "For what?" "For the others." He looked toward the trees. "I thought they were gone." "She's their door." "I should leave." She'll follow. She shouldn't. She already has. He looked down again. The ring was glowing faintly. Not with fire, with memory. His own or someone else's. He couldn't tell. She'll be hungry soon, the girl said. I brought nothing. She won't take milk. What does she take? The girl looked toward the rafters. You'll see. He walked back to the doorway, his boots stuck slightly, the blood on the floor already drying to tack. I didn't want this, he said again. I know. Doesn't matter, does it? She shook her head. No. He stepped out. The night swallowed him fast. The girl rocked the baby gently, eyes never blinking. The candle beside them burned steady, but the shadows grew longer anyway. He didn't look at the baby again until the trees swallowed the chapel behind him. Her weight didn't feel like flesh. It felt like history folded wrong. She didn't move in his arms, not even a shift. Her breath was shallow, steady, like she'd never been new, like she'd just been waiting. The trail was wet from the night rain. The cold had come suddenly, cutting through wool and leather. He didn't feel it. His boots sank in mud. His hand kept twitching near his waist, the way it used to when he carried a gun. You're not his, he muttered. The baby blinked once, slow. You hear me? You're not his. She didn't blink again. You don't get to wear it. The ring caught moonlight, flickered sharp against her tiny finger. I buried that thing. The wind moved, not hard, just enough to answer. I dug deep. He stepped over a fallen log, barely noticed the branch that dragged across his coat. I buried it with him. She breathed out, not a cry, not a sigh, just a small, deliberate sound. I watched him drown, he said. Watched the river take his breath. He stopped walking. The silence leaned in. He begged. He whispered. A whippoorwill called from the dark, too early for birdsong, too late for mercy. He said he didn't mean it. The memory gripped him, dragged him back to the creek bank, back to the boy's face underwater, mouth still moving. He said he loved her. He tightened his arms around the baby. He said it wasn't his fault. He started walking again. Faster now. Trees pressed closer, the dark grew thicker. I told him you don't take what ain't yours. The baby made no sound. I told him love doesn't count when it's begged for. He slipped on a patch of stone, caught himself with a grunt. You hear me? He snapped, looking down. You don't get to wear that ring. Her eyes stayed open, not wide, just sure. She screamed when he left, he muttered, wouldn't stop. He ducked beneath a crooked limb, brushed frost from his collar. She was 17. His voice cracked. She still believed names meant something. His cabin came into view, just a shape in the trees, roof sagging, chimney crooked. He said he was going to marry her. The firewood pile was half rotted. The door hung a little off its hinge. He said he'd do the right thing. He stopped on the porch. Then he left her in the hollow and ran. He reached for the door, but his hand paused. I followed him, he said. The baby stared at the empty space beside his shoulder. I called his name. A shiver moved through him. He turned around like he was glad. He opened the door, stepped inside. The room was cold, damp. No fire in the hearth. No pictures on the walls. I told him to kneel. He laid the baby on the table, carefully, like she might break something if he set her down too fast. He did. He walked to the far wall, slid open the cupboard, pulled out a tin of matches. He asked if she was still bleeding. He struck the match. It flared and died. He asked if she told. Another strike. This time it held. I said she didn't have to. He lit the lantern. The room glowed weak. He looked up at me and smiled. He turned to her. She hadn't moved. Not a twitch. I buried him with the ring still in his hand. He sat down, elbows on knees, head bowed. It shouldn't be here. Silence. It shouldn't be on you. She blinked. You ain't him. She blinked again. You ain't her either. He stared at the floor, the cracks in the wood, the rot around the nails. I salted the earth, he said. I prayed. Once. The lantern flickered. I said, let it end with me. He looked at the baby. You weren't supposed to happen. She shifted just once, and the ring turned slightly. It doesn't fit. He stood. It doesn't belong. He reached toward her hand. Her fingers closed around his without effort. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her grip tightened, cold, sure, small. He pulled back. She let go. He backed away, breathing heavily. I didn't mean to keep it, he whispered. The lantern flared, then dimmed again. She'll come for it, he said. The baby's eyes stayed on him. You tell her I tried. The wind hit the window once, sharp like a knock. She'll know what I did. The door creaked open an inch. No wind inside, just stillness. He didn't close it. He just stood there, listening, waiting. She unwrapped the baby in silence. The chapel walls caught no light, only shadows. The cloth stuck to the newborn skin, damp but cold. She pressed the child against her chest, shifted slightly, angled the head just so. Come on, she whispered. The baby turned her face. No, no, here. The lips brushed skin but stayed closed, eyes open, watching, not tired, not hungry. You have to, she murmured. You need to. Still nothing. The midwife stood in the corner, arms crossed, jaw set. She won't take it, the mother said. The midwife didn't answer. She's been like this since he left. The midwife clicked her tongue. Maybe she knows. Know what? That her name ain't right. She doesn't have one. That's what I mean. The baby arched back, not crying, just moving, like she was pulling away from a body that didn't belong. Babies don't act like this, the mother said. Some do. The midwife replied. The one's born wrong. She ain't wrong. Then why won't she feed? She's just slow to start. Then why's the milk curdling? The mother looked down. The pail by her side had turned. White film on top. Bitter scent. No warmth. It was fine this morning. It's noon. So? Too fast to spoil. The mother stared at the child. The eyes didn't blink. Just watched her mouth, as if waiting to see what she'd say next. I'm doing everything right. She ain't taking it. Maybe it's too cold. It's not the milk. Then what is it? She knows something. The mother pulled the cloth back over the baby's shoulders. The little arm slipped free. The ring still shined, clear as daylight. She shouldn't have that. I know. You still ain't told me how it got there. She was born with it. No one's born with gold on. She was. That ain't natural. She didn't cry. I noticed. She still hasn't. That's not good. The mother stood slowly. Her legs ached. She hadn't slept, not really, just stared at the rafters all night, listening to the quiet breath. I didn't name her, she said. You need to. I won't. She'll wither if you don't. Or worse. Worse. She'll remember. The midwife moved closer. Whose child is she? You saw who carried her out. That doesn't mean he made her. He made something. You think she's his? I think she's what came back when we thought it was done. The midwife reached for the baby. The child blinked once, then again. She's too still, the midwife said. I know. She's not sick. I know. She's listening. She always is. The mother walked to the stained glass. Most of it had long since shattered, but one piece held, a single pane with the Virgin's eyes scraped out. The sun hit it just enough to reflect back into the room. The mother stared at her own face in the fractured light. It looked older, more hollow, split by lines that weren't cracks in the glass, just truths too sharp to hold. I told him to bury it, she said. He didn't. He swore he did. Men lie. I salted that ground myself, didn't take. He said it would. Are you still bleeding? Stopped yesterday. The midwife nodded. That's something. She won't eat. Maybe she doesn't need to. That's not possible. She's not dying. No, she's not growing either. The baby shifted slightly, just enough to remind them she was there. I don't like this, the midwife said. Then go. You'll be alone. I already am. The midwife gathered her bag. You name her, she'll be yours. I don't want her to be mine. You had her. I carried her. You let him take her. He asked. You let him. The mother turned from the window. He owed me. Not enough to take what you buried. I didn't bury it. You did. I buried the idea of it. Same thing. The midwife walked to the doorway, paused once, then said without turning, She hums in her sleep. I know. Same tune he used to whistle. I know. That ain't something babies do. I know. The door creaked closed behind her. The mother stayed standing. The baby blinked, once, then again. The air grew thick, heavier than before. I should have burned it, she whispered. The baby turned her head. I should have burned the whole hill. A single fly buzzed near the milk pail, then another, too many, too fast. She watched them gather and felt the weight of sourness in the air. "You're not hungry, are you?" The baby stared. "Because you already fed." The wind stirred the broken glass. It sounded like bones tapping against stone. "I won't give you a name." The ring glinted. "Not even if you cry." But the baby didn't. She never did. The Bible was already wet when Emmett opened it. He hadn't taken it outside. He never did. But the pages still stuck together like skin after a wound. He peeled one free. The ink had run again. Not just the red words. All of it. His wife's name, scribbled in the margin beside Ezekiel, blurred into the pulp. He shut the book. Slow. Let it sit on the table like a thing that might move if left alone too long. He sat still for a while. The rain hadn't started yet, but the house was damp. Always was. The bricks sweated. The windows kept fogging from the inside. He lit a match. Then another. Then another. Let them burn down to the skin. "Sheriff!" A voice called from outside. He didn't move. "Sheriff, you up?" Bootsteps, gravel, a knock on the screen door. "You can come in," Emmett said. The door creaked. Wet wind followed. "Didn't want to bother you." "You did anyway." The deputy stood by the doorway, hat in hand. "Have you heard about the birth?" "I heard a scream that didn't belong to any living thing. Figured that was close enough." "It's not just that. The baby came early." Emmett scratched his chin. The skin peeled a little. "They always do." "It was born on your land." Emmett looked up. "Out by the chapel," the deputy added. "Right where the roof split." "That's not a place people go." "They did." "Who?" "The girl." Emmett stood slow, joints cracking like old timber. "Which girl?" "The one from the bluff. The one who never talks much." "Her? She had a midwife." "She would." "There's something else." "Always is." "The baby's wearing a ring." Emmett froze. "A gold one?" "No." "Small." "Old." "No." "It fits perfectly." "No, it doesn't." "She says it came out wearing it." He walked past the deputy, didn't put on a coat, didn't say another word. The field behind the house had grown wild. Thistle, yellow grass, half a wheelbarrow still sunk in the mud. He stepped over it all. His boots didn't slow. The willow tree was still bent from the storm that took Annie. The rope swing rotted where it hung. He knelt by the trunk, dug with his bare hands. The soil was loose, damp, familiar. He hit the box after 2 handfuls. It was cedar, nailed shut when he buried it. He held it, sniffed the seam. It still smelled like pine. "You're going to make me open this," he said softly. The deputy stayed by the fence. "I swore I'd never touch it again." The box creaked as he opened it. The hinge gave. The top fell back. Empty. "No," Emmett whispered. He reached in. Nothing. Not a scrap of velvet. Not a mark. Just hollow cedar. "She wasn't supposed to find it," he muttered. The deputy stepped forward. "You okay, sir?" "Does she know?" She said nothing. Emmett stood. "Then she knows everything." "You think it's the same ring?" "There's only one." "But the box was sealed." "She didn't dig it." "Then how?" "She was called." "By who?" "Not who." Emmett said. "By what?" The deputy looked pale. "Should I tell the Reverend?" He left town. "Should I call the state?" "They don't answer calls from places like this." Emmett looked out toward the canyon. The wind carried dust that didn't settle. "He wore it the day he died," he said. "Your son." "He gave it to her first, then took it back when he ran. She said she never got it." "She lied." "You think she lied?" "I think she didn't know she was lying." "I don't follow." "Then stay behind." Emmett walked back toward the house. Each step felt heavier than it should. "She still loves him," the deputy said. "Love doesn't keep bones from rising. She wouldn't curse her own child." "She didn't." "Then who did?" "Same one who bled in that chapel before it burned." "There was another." "There always is." He stepped onto the porch. The screen door banged shut behind him. "Have you ever seen a Bible bleed?" he asked. The deputy didn't answer. "It ain't a metaphor. It's not poetry. It bleeds. When it rains," he pointed at the table. The deputy looked. A thin line of red ink was spreading from the pages. Slow, like sap, like guilt. "She gave birth under the beam where my wife died." "That can't mean—" "It means everything." The rain finally started. Hard, cold, Smelled like stone and rust. "Get me the ledger," Emmett said, "from the courthouse." "For what?" "I need to know who else was buried wearing gold." "Why?" "Because if it's back," he said, "then they all might be." The wind howled. The Bible closed itself. The ring was gone, but the blood is still remembered. She wrapped the child tight, linen tucked under the chin, like swaddling would protect from more than cold. Her fingers shook, but not from fear, from knowing, from crossing a line she had said she never would. "Clara," she whispered. The baby blinked once, slow. "Clara," again, firmer. The wind stopped, then turned. The candles flickered sideways. The ash on the floor stirred. High in the rafters, something shifted where no birds nested. The baby's eyelids stopped moving. Her breath slowed. The midwife stepped away from the hearth. "You said you wouldn't." "I had to." "No, you didn't. She needs something." "Not that. She needs to be real." "She already is." "She needs a name." The midwife pointed at the child. "Not that one. It's mine to give." "Number it isn't." The mother stared down. "She looks like Clara." "She looks like nothing." "She has to be called." "Not out loud." The wind outside picked up again, sharp through the ruined door frame. The trees leaned away from the chapel, not toward it, away. "She's mine," the mother said. The midwife didn't answer. "She's mine," louder. "You're wrong. She came from me. She came through you. She's here now." "Not all of her." The baby didn't blink. "She's listening." The mother whispered. "She always was." The mother turned to the altar. No cross remained, just the iron nails, rusted into the shape of a wound. I needed to say it. "You woke something up." She was already awake. "She's not a child. Not yet. She's just new. She's older than you." The floor creaked beneath them, but neither moved. "You should leave," the mother said. The midwife's voice broke. "Not in the dark. You've stayed long enough. You'll regret this." "Probably." The baby blinked once. "You gave her a name," the midwife said. "Yes." "You gave her a door." She didn't answer. By nightfall, the midwife was gone. Left her bag. Left her shoes. Just gone. Like she'd stepped out the way dust does. Without sound. Without mark. The chapel groaned under moonlight. Its beams sagged in angles that didn't make sense anymore. The mother didn't light any more candles. She sat near the broken pew and rocked Clara slowly. The baby's eyes were fixed, always on the ceiling, never on her. She hummed, the same song she hadn't meant to learn, the one that filled the walls when no one else was singing. "You know it too, don't you?" she asked softly. Clara didn't move. "You hear it before I do." She rocked, back and forth. The wind outside circled like a thing trapped in thought. At dawn, she opened her eyes to stillness. The child still lay in her arms, still awake, never slept, just watched. The floor had changed. She saw it first in the dust, lines too straight, words carved beneath the dirt. She stood carefully, held Clara against her chest, brushed the floor with her palm. 4 words. "He'll come when she speaks." She didn't speak. She stepped back. She didn't scream. She turned the baby toward her chest, blocking its eyes from the floor. "You didn't carve that," she whispered. Clara's breath hitched, just once. "You didn't." The chapel walls stayed quiet. The candles were gone. Everyone, wick and all. She wrapped Clara tighter. I walked to the corner where the stained glass bent the morning light into blue veins across the stone. "Was it your father?" she asked. The baby's hand twitched. "No," she answered herself. "He wouldn't bother carving." She rocked again. "There's someone else." Clara blinked once. "You know him?" "Nothing." Was he there? Stillness. Was he first? The chapel shuddered once, low. Or last. She knelt down, pressed her forehead against Clara's. "I won't say it again," she whispered. "The name, the sound. I'll call you nothing." Clara didn't blink. "I'll call you wind." She paused. "Will that be enough?" No answer. Outside, a single crow screamed. The chapel didn't echo it back. The barn was colder than the night. Emmett opened the latch with the same rusted key he hadn't used in 10 years. It stuck. The lock groaned. The door creaked wide, and a breath of stillness slid out, thick as smoke but without scent. No rats, no hay, just the smell of wood that had held its breath too long. He stepped inside, boots echoing off the dirt floor. The lantern in his hand cast a dull yellow, barely cutting the dark. It found the corners, the chains, the bench where he'd sharpened tools that had rusted while waiting. But he wasn't looking at any of that. His eyes were already fixed. The pine box sat against the far wall, under a tarp more mold than cloth, still sealed, still whole. He hadn't let anyone near it. It was made for his son, built the week they gave up the search, dug half a hole, filled it with air, and closed the ground anyway. He stopped 3 feet from it. "You shouldn't be full," he muttered. He set the lantern on the floor, pulled the tarp off slowly. Dust lifted and swirled like pollen. "You were supposed to stay empty." His hands hovered over the lid, then dropped, then lifted again. He pressed his palm flat. Cold pine. Still smelled faintly of sap and grief. "I never told her where you were supposed to rest." He unlatched the side. The hinges clicked tight. The lid opened with a whisper. Then he saw it. Not bones, not rot, just soaked linen. Not fresh, but not decayed. Folded neatly. Stained dark in one corner, and there, sunk into the velvet, an infant's footprint. Perfect. Pressed like the child had stood there a second too long. Emmett didn't breathe. He reached forward slow, touched the velvet, still damp. He pulled his hand back. Then he saw it. Near the pillow seam, curled like a question mark, a single black hair, and beside it, wrapped around itself like it had been wound with purpose, was a ribbon. Number, ribbon. A ring box. The same one he'd buried in the willow roots. He didn't touch it. He stood there, hand twitching at his side, breath short. "You shouldn't be here," he said. The lantern flickered. He stepped back. "You were buried." He looked toward the roof. Wind moved across the boards. "You were supposed to be done." The ring box stayed still. "Why her?" he asked. "Why now?" The footprint looked new. No dust, no smear, just presence. He closed the lid. Slow, firm, latched it tight. I walked to the wall, pulled the hammer from its hook. He drove 2 nails through the latches, one after the other. Each hit louder than the last. Then he stood in silence. The barn held it like a lung. He stared at the pine. "I'm sorry," he whispered. The wind picked up outside. The door creaked, even latched. He grabbed the lantern, turned to leave. At the door, he paused. I looked back once. "You're not him," he said to the box. "You're what came after." He stepped outside, pulled the door closed, locked it, then slid the old beam across, top to bottom. It groaned as it fell into place. He turned the lantern down, let it dim as he walked across the field. No one waited. No dogs barked. The stars above didn't blink. When he reached the porch, he sat, laid the lantern down beside him, rested his hands on his knees. "She named it Clara," he muttered. The wind moved across the porch. "She shouldn't have." He looked at the trees. She was warned. He closed his eyes, rubbed the dirt from his palms into the wood grain of the steps, then whispered, to no one, "She's bringing them back." The pine box didn't rattle. It didn't moan. It didn't have to, because something inside had never left. It started with the sound, a long groaning scrape that came from the cradle when no one touched it. The mother sat on the floor, one hand on her knee, eyes on the child. Clara's lips parted, her throat worked once, and the noise came again. Not gurgled, not babbled, the exact pitch and strain of the chapel door when the wind swung it just wide enough to ask permission. The mother didn't speak. Clara blinked, then I did it again. Creak. The baby mimicked, soft, clear, not like a baby at all. The mother stood slowly. I walked to the wall, placed her palm against the stone. "Where'd you hear that?" she whispered. The baby smiled, not big, just enough to shift the cheeks, enough to make her look like she knew something she wouldn't tell. Later that night, the mother washed her hands in the basin beside the stained glass. The water smelled like pennies, old ones. She wiped her fingers on her skirt, turned. Clara was already staring. "You're not tired," the mother said. Clara blinked once. "You don't sleep. You wait." The candle behind them guttered. The mother rocked her once, twice, then whispered, "Say something." Again. Clara's lips parted. "He's watching." The voice wasn't sharp, wasn't childish, just calm. The mother didn't flinch. She only sat down, letting her legs fold beneath her. "Who?" she asked. Clara didn't answer. The next morning, the birds were gone. No song, no wings, no feathers on the sill, just absence. The mother laid Clara in the cradle, wrapped her in linen, kissed her once on the brow. "Just an hour," she whispered. She dragged the cradle to the edge of the field, where the grass still bent in patterns from the night before. Then she stepped back. Into the chapel, closed the door behind her. She waited. 1 minute, then 10, then 60. She opened the door. The cradle hadn't moved. No tracks, no paw prints, no feathers, no claw marks. Just Clara, smiling, not at her, in the sky. That night, the well water turned. She drew a bucket, held it to her nose. Metallic, thick. She poured it out. Drew again. Same smell. She lit 3 candles instead of 1. Poured the rest of the water into the chapel's corner, where the old stone ran red after rain. The floor hissed when it touched. Clara watched from the cradle. "You hear more than you should," the mother said. Clara giggled. "You laugh when I lie." The baby cooed. "You think I don't notice." The candle by the door popped. The flame leaned, then right. "I told him I wasn't afraid." Clara smiled wider. "That's the lie, huh?" She picked the baby up, held her close. "I am afraid." The baby looked toward the door. The wind didn't blow, but the hinges moved anyway, just enough to speak. "You said he's watching." The cradle creaked behind them. "Is he outside?" Clara didn't move. "Is he under us?" The mother paused. "Is he in you?" Clara shut her eyes, not sleeping. Just pause. "I won't call him," the mother whispered. Clara twitched once. "I won't say his name." The flame flickered again. "I won't dig him up." The candle behind her went out. "You can laugh all you want," she said. But Clara didn't. Not this time. She stared, eyes open, unblinking. A single line of drool slid down her chin and stopped before falling, held there like even gravity was unsure. "You're not 5 days old," the mother said. Clara blinked once. "You've been here longer." She laid her down. Back in the cradle, Clara rolled slightly to her side, not like a baby, like a woman remembering how her body used to rest. The mother stepped back, watched, said nothing else that night, because every time she did, Clara smiled, and only when she lied. Mara didn't usually open the archive drawers without gloves, but that morning, something made her rush. The key slid too easily. The drawer creaked, but not loud, just tired, like it had been waiting. She flipped past birth records, marriage bonds, donations logged in faded pencil. Then the baptisms. The 1880s ledger was wrapped in linen that smelled like teeth. She unrolled it, page by page, until she stopped. A torn corner, dried edges, and then the scratches. 4 names. Or what was left of them. The ink had been scraped with something sharp. Not a knife. No, not metal. The grooves were uneven. Software like the hand behind them had been desperate or deliberate. She ran her fingertip across the page. A splinter caught her skin. "Damn," she whispered. Blood welled up. She wrapped her finger in cloth, kept reading. What was left of the entries gave little. A date here, a parent's first name. One fragment, wore the same ring. Another said it didn't fit the baby, but it stayed anyway. Mara stood, went to the back shelves, pulled death logs, stacked them beside the open book. It took an hour to match them. 4 infants, all baptized within 8 weeks of each other, all dead before their first birthday, all from different families, but the same note on each death slip, buried with family rings. She sat back, whispered, "No." The church log said the ring was meant to pass from firstborn to firstborn, but here it passed from grave to grave. She closed the ledger, stood, locked the drawer, took the key, walked straight to the sheriff's. Emmett's porch light was on. The screen door hung slightly open. Unusual. He was the kind to latch it out of habit, even if no wind was coming. "Sheriff," she called. No answer. "Emmett." She stepped onto the porch. The boards didn't creak. The living room window glowed orange from a fire not burning. She peeked through. Table overturned, Bible open, but no Emmett. She knocked twice. Still nothing. She eased the door open. "Sheriff, it's Mara." Silence. The air inside wasn't cold, but it wasn't warm either. It felt like standing inside a breath that hadn't finished. She stepped in. The Bible was bleeding again. The pages stuck to the wood. Beside it, the baptism ledger. Open. Same torn page, but someone had added something, scratched faint into the table beneath the book. She wears it now." Mara stepped back. I looked at the floor. No footprints, but the mud was drying. Someone had been here. Boots, large, one drag mark, like the person limped or paused. She scanned the room. The gun rack was empty. No shells, no holster. She whispered, "No." She walked outside, fast, didn't run, down the steps, toward her truck. She didn't see him on the road, didn't pass a single car. Back at the library, she relocked everything, put the ledger in a locked box, taped it shut, put that box in another drawer, wrote one word on the lid, "Clara," then sat in the dark, hands folded, whispering the 4 names she could no longer read. He came alone before the sun, when the mist still rolled low across the hollow. The river didn't rush here, it lingered, slow. Bends, cold stones. The water moved like it remembered everything. He carried no lantern, just the shovel. And the memory. He stopped at the bend where the willow leaned low, roots like fingers slipping into current. He stared at the bank. "This was the spot," he whispered. No one answered. He stepped forward. The mud gave under his boots. "You asked me to bury you here." He set the shovel down. "You said the water would take the rest." He knelt, brushed the topsoil with his hand. The silt stuck to his fingers like ash. "You screamed for her," he said. "Then I started digging. The soil was damp, rich, sweet, too sweet, like something rotting, but not dead." He dug past roots, past rocks, past the layer of pale clay he remembered from before. Then he stopped. The shirt, still there, tattered, water-worn. The buttons are gone. He pulled it free, held it up, torn through the middle. "You were wearing this," he muttered. He dug more, found the knife, same one he'd used. Still dull, still dark along the edge. Then the belt buckle, still engraved with the family mark, still scratched from the fight, but no bones, no finger, no ring. He dropped to his knees. "No," he whispered. "No, no." He clawed at the hole, tossed aside handfuls of dirt. "Where are you?" He looked toward the river. "You were here." Silence. "I left you here." His voice cracked. "You didn't float this time. You stayed." He threw the shirt into the hole, then the knife, then the buckle. He stared into the pit. "You said you'd haunt me if I let her name her." He sat back. "You said naming opens doors." He laughed once, bitter. "She named her anyway." He touched his chest, the space where the baby had rested days ago. "I feel hollow now." "I buried you," he said again. "You're not supposed to leave." He looked at the knife. "You begged for mercy." Then stood. Clara's laugh echoed through the trees. Software distant, not from here. His breath caught. He looked east, too far. 20 miles, maybe more. He whispered, "No." The laugh came again. Higher, clearer. He dropped the shovel. "She's not a baby," he muttered. "She's a signal." He stepped back from the hole, looked down one last time. "You're not here." He turned toward the woods and walked into the silence that wasn't silence anymore. The sheriff carried the kerosene in a rusted tin, the same one he'd used to burn brush behind the jail in '89. The cap stuck. He pried it open with the corner of a belt buckle still dark with creek silt. No one followed him. No deputies, no town elders, no prayers. He walked the path to the chapel like he'd done it every night of his life, boots steady, breath low. The structure stood quiet, sunken just slightly more than last week. Roof bent, beams twisted. Still there, two there. He didn't knock. He poured dry wood along. The base. Pine needles swept from the old forest line. Bark peeled and curled like ribbon. He stacked it with a care he didn't admit, then poured until the whole front wall reeked of oil and rage. "She shouldn't be in there," he muttered. He struck the first match. It flared, caught his thumb. He flinched. The flame died before he could touch wood. He struck another. I watched it curl in his fingers. He touched it to the pine. Nothing. Damn it. Again. He pressed the match flat against bark soaked with fuel. It hissed. Then, nothing. Smoke, but no fire. He stepped back, lit another, pressed harder. The flame sputtered, then died. He didn't speak. He walked to the side of the chapel, looked up. That's when he saw her. Clara. In the window slit that hadn't been there yesterday. Too small for a person, too thin for glass. But she stood behind it, watching, not blinking, Her eyes didn't reflect the light from the match. They just darkened. He turned back, kicked the woodpile, sent pine flying across the clearing. "You're not stronger than fire," he whispered. He lit another match, hold it to the tip of the kerosene trail. I watched it flicker. It should have gone up. It didn't. "She's not bigger than you," he muttered. He lit another. This one blew out in the breeze. He stepped closer to the door. "Let her out," he said. Nothing moved. He grabbed the handle. Pulled. It didn't give. "She doesn't belong to this place." Still nothing. He backed up, threw the matchbox into the kindling. Then I heard the laugh. Software thin, carried by nothing. He looked up. Clara again. Still behind that slit, still watching. Her mouth curved. Not a smile. More like recognition. "You're not hers," he whispered. "You don't own her." He turned. I walked to the trees, pulled a branch, snapped it. He lit it with a lighter, pressed it straight to the door. The bark blackened, then cleared. No ash, no flame. He dropped the stick. It smoked on the ground. "She's claimed," a voice behind him said. The sheriff turned. The midwife, barefoot, pale. "You shouldn't be here," he muttered. "I was called." "She's not a caller. She doesn't have to speak." He pointed at the unburned pile. "That should be cinders. She's not meant for burning. She's meant for stopping." The midwife walked past him, touched the door. It opened, just a crack, enough to breathe. "You still believe she's a child?" the midwife asked. He didn't answer. "She chose you once. She didn't choose anyone." "You fed her," the midwife said. "You held her. That doesn't mean anything." "It does to her." The sheriff stared up at the tower. The cross is long gone, just nails and sky. "She didn't cry when she was born." The midwife nodded. "She didn't have to." Inside, something shifted. Not a step, a fold in space. He turned. "She's watching me. She always was." He looked down at his hands, at the black under his nails. "I buried my son. She unburied what mattered." He whispered, "She wears the ring. And she will." The midwife said, "Until it fits someone else." He looked at the pile again. Still soaked, still dry. "I can't burn her out." "No." "She's not forced to fear." "No." "Then whose is she?" The midwife smiled. And that was the answer. He stepped back, looked once more toward the window. Clara was gone, the slit now bricked. He walked away, left the wood behind, and fire didn't follow. The hum started low, so faint it could have been mistaken for wind. But the wind didn't carry the melody. It didn't repeat notes with precision. It didn't stop when the leaves stopped moving. Clara hummed like she remembered something no one taught her. Not nursery songs, not lullabies. The tune was slower than breath, thinner than wire, older than the chapel rafters above her. Emmett heard it first, sitting alone on his porch, pipe cold, gun beside him. He heard the melody float down from the ridge, like someone breathing through their teeth. His shoulders stiffened. "That's not possible," he said to the empty field. The tune curled in his ears. 4 notes. Rise, fall, hold, break. Again. Again. His son used to whistle that same pattern before the creek took him, before the hollow whispered his name back, before Emmett buried the ring and locked the barn. He stood slowly, joints crackling. I walked into the house. The Bible on the table was open again, still wet, still red. The name Jonah soaked into the wood beneath it. "No," he whispered. "Not again." 2 streets down, Mara sat in the back of the library, cataloging donations no one ever claimed. She paused mid-sentence. Her pen hovered. The hum reached her through brick. She said, "That song's not been sung since he vanished." She stood up. I walked to the front windows. Didn't open them, just stared. The sky looked wrong. The clouds moved, but the trees didn't. A cold breath settled against the glass. She whispered, "She's humming it." Words spread faster than words usually did. Folks didn't talk, not out loud, but the shutters closed. Radios clicked off. Dogs quieted. Chickens stayed in coops. No bells rang from the old church, but every porch light shut down before sunset, and the silence between the notes was worse than the hum itself. Tommy Bixby saw her first. He worked nights at the filling station, sleeping on a cot behind the ice cooler. He opened the door for air and saw the cemetery hill lit up by moonlight, too white to be real. Clara stood near the old graves, barefoot, still. Her head tilted slightly like she was listening to something farther off. He squinted. She wasn't humming now. The hill was. The whole ridge vibrated with her tune. He stepped back inside, locked the door. Didn't tell a soul. By midnight, Harrow's daughter was gone. No break-in, no struggle. Just shoes by the back door, a glass of half-drunk milk on the counter, and 4 finger-sized notes carved into her window pane. They matched the tune exactly. Mara saw the scratches with her own eyes. They look burned, she whispered. But the glass isn't cracked. They buried an empty coffin by dusk. Nobody, no answers. Emmett rode back to the chapel the next morning. No saddle, no coat, just his boots, his breath, and the same revolver he used to carry when people still feared the badge. Clara was already there, sitting in the front pew, humming. Her dress was white, not clean, just white. Her toes scraped against the wood rhythmically, like she kept time with something inside her bones. Emmett didn't sit right away. He stood at the door. "You know that song?" he asked. She didn't stop. "Where'd you hear it?" Still humming. He stepped closer. "That song died with him." She blinked. The hum paused for half a beat, then resumed. "You weren't alive." She hummed louder. He sat beside her. The pew groaned under his weight. The air smelled like dirt after lightning. He reached into his coat, pulled out a photo. His son, smiling, holding a rifle, standing knee-deep in the river. "You know him?" Emmett asked. Clara stopped. Her mouth opened just slightly. Then, "He sang it for me." Emmett gritted his teeth. "No, he didn't." "He did." "You weren't born." "I was waiting." The breath left his chest slower than it should have. "You shouldn't know that tune." "I don't know. You just said—" "I remember it." He stood. "I walked to the front of the chapel. I turned to face her." "Stop humming it." She tilted her head. "He's not dead," she said. "Yes, he is." "He's not done." The stained glass behind her cracked without breaking. "He drowned," Emmett said. "He changed. He was my son." "He still is." "No." "You buried the part you couldn't name." He stepped back. She stood up, took one step forward. "The hum is him," she whispered. "The hum is what's left." He raised the revolver. "Don't," she said. He aimed. "I said—" The hum filled the chapel like smoke. It poured from her throat, from the walls, from the floorboards. He dropped the gun, clutched his ears. "It's just notes," she whispered, then walked past him. The chapel door opened by itself. She stepped into the light and kept humming. The sound followed her down the hill, soft as prayer, sharp as memory. He found her standing barefoot at the edge of the hollow, where the trees bent inward like they didn't want to see. Same dress, same stare, same silence that didn't feel empty. "Are you waiting for me?" he asked. Clara didn't nod. She just lifted her arms. He hesitated, then picked her up, same as he had the day she was born. Elbows locked, back straight, heart wrong. She weighed nothing. Or maybe she weighed the same as the last thing he ever buried. "You've gotten heavier," he muttered. Clara laid her head against his chest. She started humming. That same tune. His grip tightened. He stepped into the hollow. The air didn't feel like air. It felt dense, soaked in something that wasn't time. Every footfall echoed where echoes shouldn't form. The grass beneath them turned to ash without burning. He whispered, "You remember this place?" Clara didn't answer. Of course she remembered. She'd never left. The trees thinned. The dirt changed. It grew darker, softer. The exact place where he'd dug his brother's grave. Twice. Once with guilt, once with rage. He looked down. The shovel marks were gone, but the ground still new. He knelt. Clara stepped down, stood on her own, right where the earth had once opened for something it should have choked. The wind stopped. No birds, no hum, just her. And the ring. "Show me," she said. He blinked. "What?" "Where you left him." He pointed. "There." "No," she said. "That's where you left the body." "What else was there?" "You tell me." "I buried everything." She walked to the spot, kneeled, pressed her hand to the dirt. The ground hissed, then cracked. A line shot outward like lightning, splitting the soil clean. No tremble, just break. He stumbled back. Clara stood calmly as the hollow split wider. "You're not supposed to be able to do that," he said. She didn't answer. From the gap came air that smelled like copper and old linen. And then the first coffin surfaced, wood-soaked, rotted at the corners. The initials carved into the lid are still visible. J.E. He whispered, "That's his." "No," Clara said. That's the part you buried. The lid creaked open. Inside, nothing but cloth, twisted like something once twisted in it, and a small gold ring. The same shape, the same weight, not the same one. Another. The ground cracked again. 2 more coffins pushed through, then 4, then 8. Names appeared on the wood before his eyes could read them. Some scratched out, some repeated, all ending with the same mark, a circle around the letter C. He turned. Emmett stood at the edge of the hollow, Bible in hand. "How long have you been there?" the man asked. "Since the ground started remembering." Clara turned to him. "You brought the book?" she asked. Emmett nodded. "Figured it's the only thing still bleeding." He stepped forward. The ground didn't crack beneath him. He opened the Bible. Pages stuck. Words unreadable. He didn't look down as he dropped it into the gap. It landed without sound. "It's done," he said. Clara looked up. "No," she said. "It never was." Her eyes darkened. Not evil, just deep. The ring on her finger pulsed once. The crack widened. Dozens of rings spilled out, rolling like teeth from a broken mouth. They clinked. They spun. They rested at Clara's feet. Each bore the same inscription inside. "Return." The man stepped back. "I don't want to see this." "You already did," Clara said. "I was a child. You chose." "I was told." Clara turned. "I didn't ask to carry it," he said. "No one does." The wind returned, but not above. Below. The hollow breathed in. Emmett fell to his knees. His eyes were wet. His voice cracked. She wasn't supposed to live. Clara knelt. "She didn't," she whispered, then smiled. Her smile was not cruel. It was final. She stepped forward, 1 foot over the edge. The rings rolled apart. The ground closed slowly behind her, sealed like a book that never needed to be read. The man stood alone. Emmett is gone. The chapel vanished. Only the hollow remained, and the silence that always comes after a name is spoken and heard. Perfect. Below is the full cinematic expansion for "The field should have grown back by now." It had rained 3 times, enough to soak, enough to rot the pine needles still tangled near the chapel ruins. But the ground stayed hard, too dry, too still. The grass curled at the edge of the hollow, like it didn't want to go further. Mara stood at the fence line. "She went down there," she whispered. The deputy beside her spit into the dirt. "That doesn't mean the place has changed." "It does. You saw her vanish." "I did. She was just a girl." "No," Mara said. "She wasn't." They didn't speak for a while. The wind moved wrong. Not fast, not loud, just deliberate. The hollow hadn't grown, but it hadn't stayed put either. Each morning it looked closer, 10 feet, maybe 20. "She's not done," Mara muttered. The deputy stepped back. "I'm not staying here." "I am." He left without another word. By sundown, the chapel was all shadow and memory. The walls still stood, cracked and weeping. She stepped through the arch, careful not to touch the stone. It was warm, too warm for dusk. Inside, dust lay thick, but someone had walked it. Small steps, round, soft impressions that looped, not out, not in, just around. The path circled the altar like it had been walked hundreds of times, maybe thousands. No breaks, no hesitation. At the center of the circle, something pulsed. She approached slowly. The air thinned. Her boots dragged slightly. The dust tried to cling to her like it knew she didn't belong. She crouched. It was a ring. Clara's ring. Gold. Still clean. Still whole. Hot. She reached out. Didn't touch it. "I should leave it," she said aloud. The chapel said nothing. She stared at the stone. Beneath it, something shimmered faintly. She brushed the dust away. There it was. Her name. Not written. Etched. Grown into the rock like a vein of ore. Mara. She pulled her hand back. "No." The ring pulsed once. A sound followed. A whisper. Software familiar. "There's always another firstborn." Her breath caught. Clara's voice. Quiet, but sure. Mara stood. Fast. Almost fell. "Not me," she whispered. "Not mine." She looked around. The footprints were gone, smoothed, erased. Only the circle remained. She turned to go. But something made her look back. The ring hadn't moved, but it wasn't cold anymore. It glowed, faintly, steadily. She backed out of the chapel, never turned her back on it. Not once. Not even when the wind stopped blowing. Not even when the moon rose and her own shadow refused to follow her home. Here is the full cinematic expansion for The First Knock Came Just After Midnight. 3 knocks. Not hard, not frantic. Slow. Even. Mara sat up in bed, heart already moving faster than her breath. She hadn't told anyone she brought the ring home, hadn't shown the name carved in the chapel stone, hadn't spoken a word about the whisper that called her by name. But the knock knew. 3 soft raps on her door, followed by stillness. No wind, no footsteps. She didn't open it. She didn't sleep again either. By morning, she heard it had happened to others. Mrs. Klein heard the same 3 knocks. So did Jessie Harrow. So did the new schoolteacher. Nobody opened. Nobody spoke of it out loud. Not at first. By the 3rd night, every porch in town had candles burning. Not for light, but for old reasons. Reasons people didn't admit they remembered. Then came the boy. Calvin's son. 8 years old. Freckles, bad lungs. Slept with a quilt he wouldn't let anyone wash. He opened the door. At 3:11 a.m., said the knocking stopped, and he felt brave. They found him on the porch at sunrise, sitting upright, eyes wide, not scared, not empty, just humming. Clara's tune, same 4 notes, again, again. He didn't stop. Not when his father cried, not when his mother screamed, not even when they shook him. Mara stood in the doorway and watched. "He's not singing," she said. "He's possessed," the Reverend muttered. "Number he's remembering." Same thing. That afternoon, 3 more children began to hum it. Not all at once. 1 while brushing her teeth. 1 during church. 1 in the school hallway, staring out the window at nothing. They hummed until dusk. Then they stopped. But the tune didn't. It was carried on in the cemetery. The gate opened without sound. Headstones shook without wind. The earth breathed. The townspeople gathered that night. Not in the church. There was no church left. They met in the chapel ruins, by lantern light, boots muddy, hands wrung tight, mouths dry. Emmett's name was spoken, but no one knew where he'd gone. Someone asked about Clara. Mara stepped forward. "She's not here," she said. "Where is she?" a man asked. "Gone, but not finished." They looked at her like she'd opened something just by speaking. She pulled the ring from her pocket. "Hold it up." Some gasped, some stepped back. No one asked how she got it. "She said there's always another firstborn," Mara whispered. "Who did?" asked the mayor's wife. "Clara." "She's a baby." "No," Mara said. "She's a circle." A woman trembled. "What does that mean?" "It means she ends where she begins." Someone whispered, "Burn the ring." "You can't," Mara said. "Why not?" "She wears it." The Reverend stepped forward. "We need to forget her." "You can't forget what you still hear," Mara said. "Then we bury it." "Where?" The silence dragged. Finally, old Judge Fenley spoke. "There was a law," he said, "before the courthouse burned." "What law?" "The land takes what the name forgets." "What does that mean?" "If we all agree to forget her, it stops?" someone asked. The judge didn't nod. He just looked at the ring. "But memory's not a line," Mara said. "It's a loop." Nobody answered that. They voted anyway. They agreed. No one would say Clara's name again. They'd cut her from stories, remove her from records, leave the ring buried under the chapel. Forget. Mara didn't sleep that night. She placed the ring in a tin, dug a hole behind the library, dropped it in, covered it, didn't mark the spot, didn't pray. The next morning, the cemetery hummed. Every headstone, every name, each one whispered something no one could repeat. Because the dead weren't waiting to be remembered. They were waiting for their names to be heard again. And Clara. She wasn't a name anymore. She was a sound.